internship marks a period in between of student life and professional working place. Most people find internship extremely useful to evaluate their true passion for future career, but most fail to make the most out of internship experience. In Sharing Vietnam today, we share the story of international intern in Vietnam, their insights about the Vietnamese environment in comparison to the working environment in other countries, and their will to learn to adapt outside of their comfort zone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sharing Vietnam on VTC 10 NetViet. Today our guest speaker is an international intern coming from Germany, and he's very enthusiastic to share with you his experience in working in another country, and hope that will inspire many viewers at home to be able to go out to the world and experience the world and taking internships, as well as having some tips for those that want to have a good internships in a Vietnamese company. So let's welcome him. Thank you, Haynes, for having us here today. So first of all, can you share with us your impressions when coming to Vietnam and a little bit about your job here in Vietnam?
Like the life on the street, the people were different. So on one of my first nights, I sat down at one of the Bia Hoi places and just watched the people for 2 hours, how they eat, how they talk, what they do. Everything was different, but the impression was good overall, especially when I came into the company, because here they have prepared a cake and a welcome party, and I thought, okay, these are very friendly people, and I can stay here.
I believe that you have taken many internships before coming to Vietnam, so can you share some of your experiences in taking internships in your home countries and maybe other countries as well?
Okay, so you mean this is the first time I actually worked abroad in an internship. I did internships in Germany, and my experience there was different depending on the internship. So I did several part-time jobs, several internships, and in all of them I kind of learned something about the very field that I work in. Like, I learned how to do different stuff. For example, I worked at a bank, so in this internship I gained knowledge about how the banking system works, how transactions work, so I gained professional knowledge in these internships. Now I've worked for the first time in another country, and I think I've learned more, not only maybe on a working level, but also on the level that I actually lived in another country and ate the food, experienced, talked to the people, and that's very different. So I've learned on the job, but outside of the job as well. And if I took an internship at home, I learned on the job, but outside of the job was just the same as usual.
What are some of the requirements of international companies that you can share with our viewer at home?
Well, in Germany in specific, I'd say for most internships you would have to speak German on a good level. But for some companies, they use English as the company language. So a good level of English is required. And then I think if Vietnamese people want to go to Germany, the visa could be a burden. So to get a visa for European Union can be difficult. But I think that's the official side of it, and maybe if you want to speak about a personal requirement, I think maybe you have to be open. Like, don't expect if you go to another country that everything will be like home, because then you will be maybe overwhelmed or disappointed. Just be open and let it happen.
What were your intentions when taking internships here in Vietnam?
Well, I was in Southeast Asia last year, and I wanted to come back, but I was only in Thailand and Cambodia, and everybody kept telling me that Vietnam is actually the place to go, but I didn't have the time or the money to do it. So I thought, okay, you want to work abroad? And my intention was also to do something very different. As an example, if I, as a German, take an internship in England, UK, in France, it will be different from my own country, but not very different. And once I came here, it was very different. Like, sometimes it feels everything's upside down. I had to learn how to eat with the chopsticks and stuff like this. So I wanted to have an experience that's very different. And I heard a lot of good things about Vietnam, about working and living here, so that's basically my intention.
So now for the next reportage, please take a look at a simple day at the office of Heinz. As a marketing executive, Heinrick's work in Vietnam is quite different from the positions he had assumed in Germany. Before coming to Vietnam, Heinrick was experienced working in banks, hospitals, and universities, and his current job in Vietnam gives Heinrick knowledge in a completely different field, which is tourism. But moreover, the Vietnamese habitat and culture would become unforgettable memories for this adventurous and daring intern.
Tôi cũng không lo ngại về việc lo thủ tục visa cho nước ngoài, tại vì cái đó thì là đến nước nào thì cũng cần visa thôi. Tôi cũng muốn là tìm các bạn thực tập sinh nước ngoài chuyên về tiếng Đức, tiếng Anh hoặc tiếng Pháp đến làm việc thực tập tại công ty chúng tôi. Từ đó chúng tôi sẽ phát triển thêm là tuyển các cái chuyên gia nước ngoài cao cấp hơn. Đấy là một cái bước đầu để chúng tôi đánh giá nhận xét và qua đó thì sẽ rút kinh nghiệm để mà tiếp tục tuyển các cái nhân công hoặc là các cái chuyên gia du lịch, marketing hoặc là chuyên ngành về du lịch làm việc cho công ty chúng tôi.
According to employers in Vietnam, Vietnamese students have the advantage of in-depth knowledge, but rather lack on soft skills, something that is occasionally considered to be the most important. One thing to be noticed for Vietnamese students to be able to step confidently into the real working environment as well as to compete with foreign interns is to equip for himself a strong perseverance, the desire to learn, and particularly with the integration trend in Vietnam today, foreign language is always an advantage when working in any company.
Cái thực tập sinh ở trong nước thì ở trường đào tạo thì vẫn còn thiếu rất nhiều kỹ năng, nhất là về ngoại ngữ, mà cái công việc về du lịch, đón tiếp khách du lịch nước ngoài thì lại rất cần cái khả năng chuyên môn, ngoài những chuyên môn ra cần phải khả năng giao tiếp về ngoại ngữ tốt. Tôi đánh giá là nếu các bạn mà đã xác định nghề nghiệp sớm thì cũng nên có chuẩn bị học ngoại ngữ, thì là một cái công cụ rất là tất yếu để bước vào cuộc sống.
So, after taking the internships in Vietnam, can you share of some environmental differences that you can see that may be very different and different from your home countries regarding about the culture, the working environment, or communication aspects?
Well, I can't think of too many problems because Asia Pacific Travel is kind of a internationally orientated company. So there are people that worked in different countries and they organize tours in all of Southeast Asia. So they already had a lot of contact with foreigners. Most of them speak English on a very good level. You might have noticed we have just a new colleague from India. So there wasn't too much communication problems. There was, and the office work as itself is kind of similar to Germany. So you get to the office, you work at your computer, you're on the phone. So I didn't run into many working problems.
You have talked a lot about the good things when coming to Vietnam and working here. So what are some difficulties that you can share with our viewers that many interns, Vietnamese interns, may encounter, or may even international interns have to take in mind when coming and working in Vietnam?
Well, I'd say if you just look at the office, like there's a lot of office booms and like computers, telephones, that looks the same, but of course inside it's a little bit different. Like for me it was it was a strange thing to see that lunch break is 1.5 hours. In my country, it's half an hour. And some of my colleagues sleep at lunch break, which I didn't know of before. And I can't sleep at lunch break, but so those are the small differences. You see them every day, but it's not like it's entirely different. I'd say sometimes maybe work in Germany is a little bit more straightforward and stressful. Just you have to get this done in this exact amount of time. But I actually experienced this as a good thing, that it's not as stressful as back home.
For those that have just graduated, any tips that you can share when going abroad to take internships? How do you look up internships? What are the means that you access the information about international internships? And what to take in mind when coming to another countries to work?
Okay, I personally found this internship about a student organization, which is called AIESEC, and they organize internships worldwide for students. Because I know that it's kind of difficult to find an internship abroad, especially just to get in contact with the companies. I mean, just me as a German student, I've not heard of Asia Pacific Travel. That's just something that the guys here set up for me. And how to judge if it's a good thing for you? Well, for me it was the job description itself was quite short, so I read it, but I wasn't sure, are you going to take this? But then I did a Skype interview with my boss, and Mr. Nam explained a little bit more about the job, what it's going to be like, what am I going to do, and I thought, okay, that's a good thing. It's a travel agency, so I will have the chance to see a lot and learn a lot about Vietnam. And so yeah, I think my recommendation would be speak to the people via Skype, telephone, whatever, and find out what impression you get. If you think, okay, this is something that I would do or I would feel comfortable about doing. And once you're there, I think, as I said earlier, just try to be open and not expect anything or expect everything to be the exact same. Just try to adapt.
So what do you think is the things that you gain that you can take back and carry that and taking back and will support you in your future career?
I think experience, the experience that I actually did what I did, that I went to another country for half a year, spent this amount of time relying on my own, and still I survived it, I enjoyed it, I made this experience, and it will always be a part of me. You learn what you learn besides the job, in your personal life, in the street, and only by watching people, talking to people. That's, I think, the most important part about working abroad.
Thank you, Hein, so much for having us here today. And it's great to know that you had just a good time in Vietnam. And that's the end of Sharing Vietnam today. Thank you so much for watching us. And I hope that today's show has inspired many of you to be willing to go out to the world and just experience and work there. And for those that want to work in Vietnam can get some tips as well. Any questions and concerns, please email at sharingvietnam@vtc.vn. And for the last minute, please go back to a daily work routine of Hein's in the office. Thank you and see you again.